friends, welcome to the platform of Darshanik IAS. So this is Akshay Kadam. So guys, today on this platform of Darshanik IAS, we are we're going to discuss this administrative part of our syllabus. So in our course that we are going to take in this ethics course, I have already recorded 3 lectures in which I have discussed the entire syllabus of UPSC. And then in next 2 lectures, I have discussed in philosophy segment what we are going to discuss in the class. Then in 3rd lecture, I have recorded in about psychology segment where I have recorded what we are going to study in our course in psychology segment. All the topics in detail I have deconstructed for you. So now in this lecture, guys, we are going to discuss this administrative ethics part of the syllabus. So in this administrative ethics part of the syllabus, okay, what we are going to discuss in our class in detail, that I am going to discuss. So next 100 hours of our class on this app, in that class lectures, what topics we are going to discuss in detail one by one, that I am going to discuss with you here. So as I told you that this ethics syllabus is classified into philosophy, psychology and administrative segment. And in administrative segment, the syllabus that they have mentioned, okay, we have discussed this in first lecture, the entire syllabus. And syllabus that they have discussed is public civil service values, ethics in public administration, status and problems. Okay, so public or civil service values. And in the syllabus, going ahead, they have discussed some values: accountability, objectivity, transparency, probity, integrity, etc. And in entire syllabus, they have given 7-8 values. But in our classes, okay, almost 20-30 hours, we are going to discuss this topic of public or civil service values. And there I am going to discuss with you 20-25 values in detail, many more values that are not even discussed in the syllabus or given in your literally in your UPSC syllabus. So these 20-25 values that we are going to discuss. And while discussing these values, we are going to follow the same single pattern. What is the definition of that value or that term, like integrity, probity, objectivity, accountability, transparency, economy, efficiency, effectiveness? A lot of values we will discuss. So what is the meaning of that term, the meaning of that value or definition of that value term? Okay, then what are the advantages of implementing that value in the governance? Then we will be discussing what are the disadvantages of not implementing that value in the governance. What if this value is absent from the governance? And then we will be discussing, okay, its status in India, to what level we have taken steps in administration to implement those values. And then after that, how to further increase that particular value in governance. Okay, so public service values, lot of values we will discuss. I will give you a list of that, which values that we are going to discuss in the class soon, and its status and problems. Then topic says ethical concern and dilemmas in government and private institutions. So ethical concerns or dilemmas in government and private institutions. So their word is private institution. So what kind of dilemmas that you face in governance, that we are going to discuss, and even in private institutions. A lot of dilemmas are there. One major dilemma is when personal ethics and professional ethics conflict. Okay, so for example, you are working in some private organization where there is a canteen and it's a multinational company, and you are vegetarian person. You are correct in your own point that you are vegetarian person. But lot of people working in multinational companies, those who are from Middle East, Europe, etc., eat non-veg, and your canteen allows, okay, non-veg food. So there is a clash between your personal value and a professional value. Okay, and so in our syllabus, we will be discussing, okay, these kind of ethical dilemmas in administration, ethical dilemmas in governance. Okay, you are a police officer and some girl comes to file an FIR against your own son. There is a conflict of interest. There is a ethical conflict, moral conflict. So we will discuss lot of such ethical dilemmas in government, and as well as they said private institutions. And Aage, they have separately given one syllabus topic, corporate governance. And here also there is word private institution. So in our syllabus, 3-4 hours, we will be discussing the separate topic, okay, of corporate governance. Okay, we will be discussing the separate topic completely of this governance from a private institution's perspective, that is business ethics. Largely, we will be discussing administrative ethics, but at the same time, we will be discussing that private ethics or ethics in business or ethics in corporate governance. Then the topic also says laws, rules and regulations and conscience as a source of ethical guidance. So conscience, I have already told you, conscience means viveka buddhi. And so how conscience act as a source of guidance, ethical guidance in the governance. And what is the role of laws, rules and regulations in developing that conscience? And what whether laws, rules, regulation will be able to develop the conscience? And what good will come out if we have people with conscience in the administration? And if we don't have people with good conscience in administration, people with bad value system, bad morals join the administration, okay, then how we can use laws, rules, regulation to keep check on such a people. So this topic, that is conscience and use or role of laws, rules, regulation in developing conscience or restricting people with bad conscience, this is the next important topic of our syllabus. Then they have exclusively mentioned some values, that is accountability and ethical governance. Then strengthening of ethical moral values in governance, what steps you will need to strengthen these ethical moral values in governance, how we can increase accountability in governance, how we can increase transparency in governance, how we can increase effectiveness in governance. Okay, so I already told you, I will be discussing with you more than 20-25 values, and we will be following the same pattern. What is the definition of the value? How to increase or strengthen the value in governance? Okay, what are the advantages of strengthening that value in governance, and what are disadvantages of not strengthening that value in the governance? Then topic says probity in governance or concept of public service, or concept of probity in public service, and philosophical basis of governance and probity. So probity, guys, as I told you, it's a very open-ended, very high-level values. Okay, integrity and probity are two completely different terms. So I don't do corruption and I don't use my personal car for my personal use, government car for my personal use, then I am person with integrity, bureaucrat with integrity. But if I allow or if I use, okay, government, I don't do corruption, but I don't stop other people in my department from doing corruption, then it's equally the same thing. So I don't do corruption, but other people in the department or governance, okay, they do the corruption and I don't stop them, I don't take action against them, I don't whistle blow about them, then what's use of my integrity? So I should be a bureaucrat with probity, and that's why this probity in governance is a very important point. Then there is this information sharing and transparency in government, right to information, code of ethics and code of conduct. Okay, this is also one topic, that is information sharing and transparency. And in previous screen, they have given the topic accountability. So accountability and transparency, these two are very important topics. And in our syllabus, we are separately going to discuss one concept, that is good governance. And in good governance, okay, we will be discussing a lot of values. There are 8 E's of governance, that is economy, efficiency, effectiveness, ethos, ethics, equality, equity, engagement. All these values we'll discuss. But there also you will read that accountability and transparency are the two pillars of a good governance. Okay, if you want good governance, then you need accountability. And if you want good governance, you need transparency. These are most important things. Okay, so syllabus separately mentions accountability and transparency. So we will be discussing this accountability, transparency very much in detail. We'll discuss what is internal accountability, external accountability, triple chain of collective responsibility. All such a concept we will discuss under this topic. Then there is a few other terms that syllabus mentioned, that is citizen charter, work culture and quality of service delivery, Sevottam model. Okay, delivering good services, good quality service delivery, Sevottam model that second ARC mentions, that we are going to discuss. And citizen charter is also very important for ensuring good governance. Okay, and I told you, if you want good governance, you need to increase accountability. Okay, and you need to increase transparency. And if you want to increase accountability as well as transparency, then one thing you need to do in governance is, okay, ensure citizens' participation, engagement of citizen in the governance. So if you increase their engagement, citizen participation in governance, then it will lead to, okay, increase in accountability as well as increase in transparency, and both accountability and transparency together will lead to the good governance. And that's why citizen charter is also one way of good governance. Citizen charter through accountability, citizen charter through transparency leads to good governance. Then utilization of public funds, okay, that is also one separate topic. And challenges of corruption, that is also separate topic. So what we are going to discuss in challenges of corruption, I will discuss in the end in detail. So this is what UPSC has given in the syllabus. Now what we are going to discuss in the class. Okay, first in this topic, okay, then there was one more topic that is there in the syllabus, that is aptitude and foundational values for civil service. Okay, so principles of governance or public sector values or a civil service values, all these are the same terms, and here they have mentioned some aptitudes or foundational values, that if you want to be IAS, at least these values should be there with you. And these aptitude or foundational values are your integrity, impartiality, non-partisanship, objectivity, dedication to public service, empathy, and tolerance and compassion towards weaker section. So these 7-8 values they have mentioned here in the syllabus. Now these 7-8 are there, but I told you I will give you much more values than that. Okay, like impartiality. If you want to be a good civil servant, you should be impartial civil servant, you should be political neutral civil servant, you should be dynamic civil servant, you should be economical civil servant, you should be effective civil servants. So all these values along with these 7-8 that I have mentioned in the syllabus, we will be discussing much more values, okay, in our syllabus. Okay, so first topic that we are going to start, we are going to discuss when we will be discussing this administrative ethics segment by the end of our course. So first we will be discussing all philosophy segment course, then psychology segment course, and then we'll go to administrative segment course, and then in last lecture we'll be discussing, okay, last 25 hours we'll be discussing only case studies. Okay, so when we'll start administrative ethics segment, first we'll start with the civil service ethics. We'll discuss basic concept, what we understand by civil service ethics. Okay, basic idea of civil service ethics, how civil service ethics or administrative ethics is different, okay, from personal ethics, and how civil service or administrative ethics is different from professional ethics. That we will discuss. We'll compare professional ethics with administrative ethics. So for example, being MD CEO of a private company and being a IAS IPS in a government, or being a head of the public sector undertaking, okay, you have completely totally different values that you have to work on. So being a managing director of a state transport department, bus transport department, and being a director of some private Volvo or other those travel agencies who provide these travel services, then both have to work on different principle. If you are operating some private bus transport service, okay, then your motive is only cost benefit analysis, profit. But if you are running a state transport services, then you can't only work on profit basis. You have to ensure last mile connectivity. You have to ensure delivering at a cheaper rates this connectivity to the people, and so on. And that's why administrative values differ. Civil service value is totally different segment than a professional values. And that's why MBA is a separate subject than public administration. So why public administration is different than a MBA? Why being IAS is different than being a managing director of private company? These basic concepts we will discuss. Okay, so we will discuss the civil service ethics and professional ethics, the difference. So what is the similarity between civil service and professional ethics? That we will discuss. Okay, what are the common grounds between the two? So being a MD CEO of ICICI and HDFC and being a MD CEO, okay, of a Bank of Maharashtra or SBI, both have to work in same domain and work on same principles. So what is the similarity between private sector and administration? That we'll discuss, and then we'll discuss the differences between civil service ethics and professional ethics. 7-8 points I will discuss with you how civil service ethics differs than the professional ethics. Okay, then in the syllabus, next topic is conscience as a source of ethical guidance. Okay, so we'll discuss conscience, role of conscience, viveka buddhi, sat viveka buddhi. Okay, if your administrative conscience, your conscience, viveka buddhi is strongly backed by this public service values, civil service values, then how this conscience will help you resolve the ethical dilemmas, moral dilemmas in administration. Okay, and that is very important thing, having a good conscience, because in administration, okay, laws that are created by the government, okay, these laws are very general thing. Okay, they are static. While on ground, when you implement the law, okay, situations are extremely dynamic, and because of this gap, that is laws which is very general in nature, while situations are very specific, dynamic, complex, and that's why you can't literally implement the law. And in that case, then understanding the spirit of the law is very important. And to understand the spirit of the law, understand the situation, and accordingly you need to take decisions. And that's why okay, in administration, these IAS, IPS officers, IRS officers are given lot of discretionary power. And so to use discretionary power, you need a very strong moral conscience. And that's why conscience as the source of ethical guidance is very important while addressing or dealing with the discretionary powers. Most of the time there will be lot of loopholes in the law, and many bureaucrats exploit those loopholes. And that's why in such a situation, okay, not to exploit the loophole and act in best possible manner, we need a conscience. Even we will discuss one concept that Ambedkar discussed, public conscience. And he said, if democracy is to survive, constitution is to survive, what we need is this public conscience. Okay, and that's why this conscience as the source of ethical guidance, this topic we will discuss. And related to that, we will discuss the topic crisis of conscience and its manifestation in public domain. So conscience there will be a lot of crisis, okay, in your conscience. Crisis may happen in conscience. So I already told you in previous lecture, okay, that there are this lot of terms you will come across in ethics: crisis of conscience and conscience crisis, crisis of ethics and ethical crisis, crisis of morals and moral crisis, crisis of values and value crisis. Okay, so in this I told you, if there is a word of, then it is a good thing. So crisis of conscience means your conscience is well developed, you understand all sides of ethics and morality, you understand all good side, but now you don't or can't determine which is more good between the two good things or which is more bad between the two bad things. And that is the crisis of conscience. Okay, so you don't eat non-veg, you are a vegetarian person, it's a good moral conscience, but the company you work for, okay, allows non-veg, so your personal conscience is also correct, your administrative demand or expectation is different. Now there is a conflict or crisis of conscience. Or you are running, or you are a vegetarian person and you are running a government scheme in which eggs is not allowed under midday meal scheme, or eggs are allowed under midday meal scheme, and you are a vegetarian person. Or you are a non-vegetarian person and government asks to ban eggs from a midday meal scheme. Okay, then there is a conflict, okay, between administrative expectation, value, and your conscience, and such a conflict is called crisis of conscience. But if there are terms conscience crisis, moral crisis, value crisis, ethical crisis, that means that person, okay, is totally unethical. He has no sense of conscience, no sense of ethics, morality, etc. That is very bad term. So crisis of conscience is actually good. Okay, your conscience is developed, but you don't understand between the two good things. So how this crisis of conscience appears, lot of examples I will give you, how it manifests in the public domain, and how you can deal with such a situations, this ethical situation or ethical moral dilemmas that you face, and crisis of conscience that get created, how to deal with that. We will be having separate lecture on that. Then we will discuss some basic terms, very open-ended terms, which are very important for your administrative ethics part. And such a terms like constitutional morality. We will discuss the concept of constitutional morality. What do you understand by the term constitutional morality? Okay, who gave this idea of constitutional morality? When Ambedkar gave this idea of constitutional morality in Constituent Assembly, what he talked about constitutional morality? Okay, that we'll discuss. Then from where we learn constitutional morality? Okay, what are the sources of constitutional morality? And whose duty it is to adhere to the constitutional morality? Role of different organization, agencies, okay, or pillars of democracy to stand by the constitutional morality. So these kind of concept we will be discussing in detail, the constitutional morality, then constitutional culture, constitutional identity, and constitutional fluidity. So a lot of these different terms are there. I will be discussing all these terms with you. I will give you their basic meaning. So if question comes, you will be in position to write a good answer on that. Then we will discuss this concept of public conscience. Ambedkar also talked about this concept of public conscience that I told you. If democracy is to survive, constitution is to survive, then we need a public conscience, and that's what Ambedkar, okay, mentioned in one of his speech, the significance of public conscience. So what is this public conscience term that he was talking about? We will also be discussing that in our syllabus. Okay. Then next topic is concept of public conscience that we will discuss. Then we will discuss two terms, two important values or concepts that is concept of organizational ethical competence. Okay, concepts of ethical competence and concept of ethical infrastructure. So if you want to govern in an ethical manner, if you want to run your organization, department, ministry in ethical manner, okay, then you need to develop your entire organization, department, or your ministry's ethical competence. And that's why we will be discussing this concept of organizational ethical competence. And this organizational ethical competence, okay, has two terms under it. That is concept of ethical competence and concept of ethical infrastructure. So ethical competence and ethical infrastructure, two terms are under it. And so this concept of ethical competence and concept of ethical infrastructure. So if you want to ensure good governance, if you want to deliver good governance, you need to develop very good ethical organization. And to develop good ethical organization, you need to do two things. First, you need to hire people who are ethically competent. Okay, hire people like Khemka, or in Maharashtra you have Tukaram Munde, very ethically strong IAS IPS officer you need to hire. So people with strong ethical competence. And only having people with strong ethical competence is not enough. Okay, you can't always guarantee that every person who joins bureaucracy is very ethical and moral. There may be very lot of people who are not ethical, moral, and in that case we will need, okay, we also need ethical infrastructure. You need to develop entire organization. So even people with bad ethics, bad competence, okay, join the administration, they should not be able to exploit laws, exploit rules, regulations, etc. And that's why we need to develop the ethical infrastructure. Okay, so concept of ethical competence and ethical infrastructure, both we need to develop. Then, so we will be discussing these concepts like ethical competence, or this ethical competence is also known as ethical conscience, ethical reasoning, okay, and how to develop this ethical competence, ethical conscience, or ethical reasoning, that it is developed through ethical training. Okay, so we will discuss this concept of ethical training. So now when you are listening to my course, when you will study all these lectures of ethics, you will learn about different philosophers, thinkers, reformers. So when you are studying them, you indirectly, you are developing your own ethical competence. Okay, so same way, this is ethical training. Then you will appear for UPSC exam, state services exam, and you will crack ethics paper with good marks. That means you are undergoing this ethical training. And once you selected, you will go to Labasna, where you will further be developed, your personality will be developed to be a good bureaucrat, good administrator. So what is happening with you is this ethical training. And by giving you ethical training, okay, they will develop your ethical conscience, ethical reasoning, or ethical competence. And once ethical competence is developed, we need to also focus on ethical infrastructure, और उसी के लिए parallel terms है, that is ethical procedure, ethical structures, or we need to develop ethical culture in organization. Okay, so ethical culture, ethical infrastructure, ethical procedures, ethical structures that we need to develop. Okay, then there is this another topic, the next topic that we will discuss. That is, I told you there are a lot of such terms that you will come across, and UPSC asks very like simple question in section A. What do you understand by the term crisis of conscience versus conscience crisis? So this point I have just now explained you or mentioned you. So crisis of conscience versus conscience crisis, crisis of ethics versus ethical crisis, crisis of values versus value crisis, crisis of morality versus moral crisis. Okay, so all these terms that I just now explained, we will be discussing them separately, and how this manifests in administration and how to deal with that. That will be the also we will discuss in the class. Then we will also discuss some terms like code of ethics and code of conduct. Okay, in one lecture. So code of ethics is an open-ended term. Code of ethics are general guidelines of an organization, that you should do this, you should be in uniform, you should come to office on time. All these guidelines, general guidelines, comes under code of ethics. Now under code of ethics, that part that you need to implement legally, okay, that part you need to implement or you are legally accountable for. If you don't follow those guidelines, there will be legal action against you. So this legal obligation part is your code of conduct part, and that's why code of ethics and code of conduct, both things that you need to ensure in organization. Okay, so we will discuss or compare code of ethics with code of conduct. Then separately, I told you there is one concept in our syllabus, there are some terms that UPSC has mentioned in the syllabus, that is aptitude and foundational values for civil service. Now, aptitude and foundational values for civil service, they have mentioned 4-5 values: integrity, probity, objectivity, compassion, dedication, etc. Then importance principles of public life, okay, like accountability, transparency, probity, etc. Yeah, civil service aptitude or public or civil service values. Okay, these 4-5 terms are there, and under these 4-5 terms we will be discussing, okay, 20-25 values that I told you, and these 20-25 values that we are going to discuss, okay, that is foundational values for civil service or important principles of public life or civil service aptitude or civil service values. Few which are there mentioned in the syllabus, obviously we'll discuss them all, but other than that we'll be discussing all these values, that is selfless service, integrity, probity, accountability, responsibility, transparency, okay, objectivity, impartiality, political neutrality, dedication and commitment, perseverance, responsible governance, etc. So all these values in detail we will discuss, and that's not all. Okay, so in every separate lecture we will discuss one separate value. Then fairness and justice, equality and equity, okay, then professionalism in civil service, then आपका empathy in governance. So, and while discussing these terms, we will compare them with all other values, how they differ from other values. We'll try to understand very conceptually the meaning of those values. So sympathy, how it is different from empathy, how empathy is different than compassion, why compassion is more important in administration than empathy. Okay, so sympathy is just feeling of pity, yaar tere saath bura hua. Empathy, when you put yourself in the shoes of other person, that's empathy. And compassion, usse bhi upar. Okay, in compassion, okay, you go to alleviate the pain of other person, you go to address the pain of other person. So compassion is very higher level value. So we'll compare all these values like empathy, compassion, sympathy, etc. Then as a bureaucrat you need to be extremely tolerant, okay, to different viewpoints, because India is a very diverse country. Okay, there are different food habits, cultural patterns, linguistic patterns, etc. So okay, we need to be extremely tolerant towards the people. Then compassion towards the weaker sections, okay, that is also very important value. Then you need to be economical in governance, that is also very important. Okay, India is a poor country, you can't waste government's resources. Okay, there is a lot of below poverty line people, and that's why as a bureaucrat, then you shouldn't be wasting government resources, rather you should be using government resources for betterment of the people. You should be reducing cost for the government, or you should be making more and more profit for the government, so that government will be able to start a lot of social sector schemes for those below poverty line people and so on. And that's why, okay, we need economy in governance. Same way, we need efficiency in governance. Not only we need to reduce money or cost to the government, we also able to deliver our services in efficient manner, in timely manner, in less time cost labor, okay, in quick manner. And for whatever people paying money to the government for that service, we should be able to deliver, okay, better and better quality service, Sevottam model, okay, and that's why we need to be efficient also. So we'll discuss this concept of efficiency in governance. Then we'll discuss effectiveness in governance. That is also a very important topic, effectiveness in governance. Now we can't just deliver service in economical and efficient manner. Okay, we need to be effective also. Means we are running a service, but have we able to achieve the goal that we intend to achieve? Are we delivering services in goal directed manner? We are running midday meal scheme, but does malnourishment has been addressed? We have started a hospital, whether health indicator in the area improved. We started the education, right to education and universal enrollment we have achieved in education sector, but whether quality of students or those who are passing out from that educational institute, whether their quality is improved or not. Okay, and so, okay, we need to be effective also in governance. Then we will also discuss that I told you, while discussing all these values, we will be following same pattern. What is the definition of that value? What will be advantages having that value in governance? If it is not, what are disadvantages? Then how to ensure or strengthen that value in governance? So how you will strengthen effectiveness? How you will understand, okay, that you are running midday meal scheme, but whether Okay, malnourishment has been addressed or not. You are running a primary healthcare center, but whether patients are coming there, and if they are coming, what problem they are facing. So obviously you need to ask to the people. And so इसी effectiveness से generates the concept of social audit. And so we will be discussing that social audit concept, effectiveness as a part of this effectiveness in governance. Then we will be discussing civil service orientation. This is also very important value. You need to having civil service orientation, not mastery orientation that I am here to rule. Okay, you should be having the civil service orientation that I am here to serve the people. Okay, in India we have that My Baap Sarkar ka viewpoint of the government. Okay, and we need to change that. Okay, because this exam ka naam itself is a civil service examination. Okay, so as a bureaucrat you should not be having the master class mentality, ruling class mentality that our this Raja Maharajas or aristocrat or British had. But you need to be a servant who has a service orientation. Okay, and that's why this value is also very important, civil service orientation. उसके अलावा you need to be extremely dynamic in civil service. So we'll discuss one value, dynamism, because today society is becoming very complex because of globalization, technological advancement due to liberalization, privatization, globalization, etc. There are cryptocurrencies, there are 5G technology, there is metaverse, social media platforms, everything is changing, cyber crimes, etc. increasing. Okay, and in such a scenario, when governance has become extremely complex task, and that's why to deal with such a complex issues, you need to be a dynamic civil servant, and that's why dynamism in civil service is very important value. Then leadership styles. Okay, there are 3 leadership styles in governance, that is strategic leadership, innovative leadership, and transformational leadership. So strategic, innovative, and transformational leadership. This is also very important part. So as a bureaucrat, whether you are IAS, IPS, IRS, any deputy collector, DYSP, etc., you run an entire department, you run a district, you run an entire taluka. Lot of people work under you. Even you provide leadership to the people in crisis situation like riots, disaster management, etc. Okay, or event management, etc. And in such a situation, then you need to have, as a good civil servant, it's a very basic part. You need to have this foundational value, okay, aptitude to be a good leader. Okay, and so leadership style is very important. So we'll discuss that separately. And in leadership style, okay, there are a lot of different leadership styles are there in MBA. Those students who have done MBA, etc., they must have studied. But I think with administration, these 3 leadership styles are very important or very much linked. That is strategic leadership, innovative leadership, and transformational leadership. Okay, so these 3 values we will be discussing in detail: strategic, innovative, and transformational leadership. Then this topic that I have already told you, we will be discussing in detail: ethical competence or ethical conscience, ethical reasoning, and then ethical infrastructure ka. Okay, and both come under the topic of organizational ethical competence. Then we will be discussing separately a topic of moral code of conduct. Okay, organizational code of conduct and employees code of conduct, 2 policies that come under that. So moral code of conduct, Achar Sanhita. So as a bureaucrat, you need to follow some moral code of conduct. And in India, there is a law, Civil Service Code of Conduct Rule 1963. So this Civil Service Code of Conduct rules, okay, whatever they are mentioned there, okay, they are classified into 2 categories. That is organizational code of ethics, that your organization should run on some ethical parameters. And as an employee working in that organization, you need to follow some moral code of conduct, that is employees code of conduct. So organizational code of conduct and employees code of conduct together comes under this moral code of conduct or civil services code of conduct policy 1963. So we will be discussing this moral code of conduct part. Then uske baad there are some higher values in governance that you need to adhere to or follow in a very ethical, moral manner. And these values that you will come across, and these values also we will discuss in our discussion. So one is your discretionary power. So as IAS, you should be having, or as a bureaucrat, you get exposed to a lot of discretionary power. You are judged whether to give him a bail or not to give him bail based on circumstantial evidence, whether to give him police custody or judicial custody, okay, or whether whatever evidences that police is presenting, are they good enough? What if he is really criminal and I am let him go on a bail? Or what if he is really innocent, but on limited evidences I send him to police custody where he gets tortured? Okay, as a judge, you have extreme discretionary power. Same as IAS, IPS, IRS, all of these get extreme discretionary power. Which person to raid, which person not to raid, etc. All these ED people have extreme discretionary powers. So what is discretionary power? Why we need it in that governance? And this discretionary power is called necessary evil. So why it is called necessary evil? Because we can't get away with the discretionary power. We need it because laws, we can't make law for each and every situation. Laws can be general. I told you, situations are dynamic, complex, static. And that's why to bridge this gap between general law and static situation, okay, we need to give this discretionary power to the bureaucracy. So then how to ensure that this discretionary power is not misused? Okay, that also we'll discuss in detail in our class. So discretionary power and a lot of such concepts are there that we'll be discussing in the class. That is conflict of interest. Okay, because you are a bureaucrat and at the same time you are an individual. So in your individual capacity, you have some interest, personal interest, and as a bureaucrat, okay, when you as a person, okay, plays the role of bureaucrat as well as an individual, both interests can conflict with each other, and that is called conflict of interest. One simple conflict of interest I gave you: you are a police inspector, and some girl comes to file an FIR against your own son. Conflict of interest. Okay, you hold the shares of some private company, and you are a judge, and some case regarding that private company comes in front of you, and you are presiding as a judge over that case. If you deliver judgment in favor of the company, share prices will increase, that will be profitable to you. If you deliver judgment that will cost the company, and share prices will drop, and it will also cost you, then in that case, as a judge, your duties, official interest, and as a person, your economic interests are in clash. So this conflict of interest manifest in public service, how they appear, what are different ways they appear, and how to deal with them. That also we'll discuss in this topic. Then we'll discuss topic of public conscience. Then we'll separately discuss concept of good governance. So we'll discuss this second ARC report, Administrative Reform Commission's report, and that second ARC report, we will be discussing this concept of good governance. Then we'll be discussing this constitutional morality, constitutional identity, these two concepts. Okay, and also I told you constitutional dynamism, constitutional fluidity. So all such a terms that I will be discussing with you. And if you look properly at by the end of our course, then you will come across, I will be given you more than 200 to 50 terms. Some 50-60 terms in philosophy segment, 50-60 terms in psychology segment, 50-60 such a terms in administrative ethics segment, and overall more than 200 terms I will give you in entire discussion. Now you have to use all those 20-25 terms, okay, in your answer writing or in your case study solution, etc., to enrich your answer. Now how by the end of the course, in one separate lecture, I will discuss all these terms, 200-250 terms. Okay, you need to then quickly go over all such terms and use maximum of those terms in your answer to make your answer extremely qualitatively better, enriching answer. Okay, so then uske baad, there are these some random points that UPSC has given, that is citizen charter, which comes under good governance. Then there is a right to information. Obviously RTI is very important because right to information ensures transparency, and right to information also ensures then indirectly accountability. Then we will also be discussing this quality of service delivery, Sevottam model that second ARC talks about, how you can improve the quality of service delivery through e-governance, etc. That we will discuss in this topic. Then there is a topic of utilization of public funds. This is also a small topic, that you need to utilize the government funds in a very economical manner, efficient manner. And many times, even underutilization of public funds is a crime, or underutilization or misutilization. Both is a form of corruption. You misutilize fund, you waste government's fund, okay, or you divert, leak government funds for personal profit. That is a crime, corruption. But you underutilize, you don't properly utilize government's funds, and because of that, social welfare doesn't happen. Then this underutilization is also in way form of corruption. So how we can ensure economic and efficient use of public service funds, that we need to discuss under this part. And then there is also one topic, non-performance of duty by civil servants. Okay, so now non-performance of duty is equally a crime. You know as a police officer that riot is happening in particular area and you don't go and take action to stop the riot and people die. Okay. So when you get paid, you have been hired, you have been appointed, you have been given power, you have been paid a salary to do your task, to perform your duty, and you don't perform it. Okay. Then this non-performance of duty by civil servant is a major issue. Should it be treated as a crime? Should there be legal action against the bureaucrat? These debates we will have under this. And in Bhagavad Gita, ethics that we will study under philosophy segment, I told you there is one concept of Vikarm, Akarm and Sakarm. And Krishna has clearly told Arjun in that debate that instead of fighting this battle and doing your Kshatriya duty, if you drop your weapon and leave, and because of that, if Duryodhan tomorrow becomes the king, then whatever sins the Duryodhan and all his Kauravas will do, all that sin will also be on your head because you choose to do Akarm, okay, instead of Sakarm. So Krishna was clearly telling in Bhagavad Gita ethics that non-performance of duty, Akarm, when you have Sakarm, a good performance of duty, you choose to be a non-performer, is equally sinful or equally should be treated as a crime. So that topic also we'll be discussing. And then this topic, challenges of corruption, okay, is very, very important topic. So under that, we'll be discussing lot of points. That is, under challenges of corruption, we will discuss what are the reasons for corruption, okay, what are the challenges of corruption, how corruption is bad for society, economy, etc., how it hampers growth and development, how corruption fuels the criminal syndicates, etc. Then we will be discussing concept of reasons for corruption, why there is so much of corruption in India, what are the multidimensional reason, social factor, economic factor, individual factor, administrative factor, okay, cultural factors, etc., international factor, globalization, etc. Okay, that we will be discussing. Then we will discuss effects of corruption, how corruption impacts society, okay, how parallel economy that runs, the black economy that runs, okay, fuels inflation, etc., how it creates cost push inflation, demand pull inflation, etc. Then we will also be discussing the types of corruption. Okay, so types of corruption, what are the different types of corruptions? So corruptions, there is a 4-5 classification, that is petty corruption, grand corruption, 5% corruption, 10% corruption, etc. So there are multiple types of corruptions. Okay, and there are a lot of terms we will come across, like chiseling, cooking the books, baking the ledgers, etc. या आपका हवाला जैसे scams, siphoning of funds, round tripping of funds. So I will give you a lot of such terms by which today the corruption is classified or happening in the society. Then we will discuss also how to address the menace of corruption. Okay, so value system development versus institutional development. This topic is very, very important. And after discussing reasons, effects, types of corruptions, okay, very important point is how to deal with the corruption. And generally there are two ways to deal with the corruption. First is a value system development. Develop good conscience in people, okay, and hire people, okay, who are extremely integral, who will not do the corruption at all. Okay, we need to hire such a people. So that is value system development. And once you have value system, then what you need to do is a institutional development. Okay, you need to develop the strong institutions also. Okay, for example, you need laws like RTI, Whistleblower Protection Act, etc. So those who are doing corruption can be checked, can be arrested, okay, can be put behind bar, or those who have done corruption, how to recover loss to the government exchequer. And for that purpose, you need not only people with good values, but you also need institutions, okay, with good values. And so you need to develop individuals' values as well as institutions' values. And that's why this value system development versus institutional development is a very, very important topic. Okay, you will understand its significance when we discuss that in class. Then, so understand this value system development and institutional development is also very important topic. And then measurements of corruption. Okay, how we measure corruption today. Okay, you must have heard about Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index, which is a very comprehensive and universal measure of corruption. So how they measure corruption? So there are different ways to measure corruption, like direct measures, indirect measures, composite measures. That we will discuss separately in the class. So corruption topic we will discuss comprehensively. Then there is small topic, ethical issues in international relation and funding. Like in international relation, okay, what ethical norms that we need to follow? Okay, many countries pay India, okay, money for the because of poverty, or British pay India out of moral debt some money because of the loot, the way they looted India during colonization. So all this international aid, when it comes to a country, okay, mostly it doesn't come, okay, unattached. There are always strings attached, that if you we will give you the donations, we will give you the funding, okay, but you need to change your laws in this manner, etc., etc. So whether giving this aid, okay, donations in this attached strings manner with some conditionalities, is it ethical, unethical? All such debates we will be doing, okay, under this, that ethical issues in international relation and funding. Okay, then corporate governance and business ethics is one important topic. Okay, so this corporate governance separately has mentioned, or business ethics or ethics in private organizations. This topic is very important because UPSC has separately asked 2-3 times entire case studies from a private industry perspective. It has nothing to do with administration at all, that you are MD CEO of a private company and drug has been discovered, your company produces veterinary drugs, and one of the scientists of your company has discovered that your veterinary drug can cure liver cancer in a particular area, a tribal area where many tribal people are affected, but developing the variant of the drug will cost you 50 crore. So what you will do as a MD and CEO of the organization? So here you are not IAS IPS, you are MD CEO whose only goal is to ensure cost benefit, okay, for the organization. So what is ethical and unethical in this situation? What you will do? Such a case study was there. The entire case study was on a corporate governance, on a business ethics, okay, ethics in private organization perspective. And so we will be discussing this topic in detail. So where we will be discussing significance of business ethics, corporate governance, why we need to be ethically while running on an organization. Because if you are not ethical, then like Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, they came 10-20 years back and disappeared from the scenario. Okay, if you run organization in ethical manner, then you will end up like Tatas, you will end up like Wipro of Azim Premji. Okay, 60-70 years Wipro is running in most ethical manner and in sustainable manner. For 100+ years, Tatas are doing business in India in most ethical manner. So it ensures longevity, it ensures sustainable growth. Okay, it ensures public trust in the organization. And that's why this significance of business ethics, corporate governance, I will give you 20+ reasons, advantages of being ethical in organization. Okay, then we'll discuss the in philosophy syllabus we'll be discussing 2 major theories: consequentialist ethics or utilitarian ethics versus deontological ethics. So consequentialism of Bentham and deontology of Kant. So when we discuss consequentialism of Bentham and deontology of Kant, here which thinker is more appropriate? Okay, whether we need to be utilitarian in business ethics or being deontological, Kantian is more important. Okay, that debate we will be discussing in the classroom. And you will realize by the end of this debate, a very important debate, that why we can't be only utilitarian, we need to be a Kantian, deontological in our approach while running an organization. Okay, we can't just always think about the cost benefit end goal analysis. Our motive, will, intention, our actions should be justifiable. Okay, they should be ethical in the first place. So this debate is very important. Okay, then we will discuss how to foster effective ethical training in organization, how you can ensure ethical training in organization, how to foster ethical training, and under which, okay, we will be discussing 2 topics: developing code of ethics for organization. Okay, so if you want to run your private company in ethical manner, then first thing you need to do is develop the code of ethics for organization. And this code of ethics part, I will discuss with you directly the code of ethics of a Tata company. Okay, there's a best company in India, and for 100+ years they are running in India in most ethical manner. So directly I am going to discuss with you in this class developing code of ethics में Tata's code of ethics policy and Tata's company's employees code of conduct policy. Okay, so Tata has 2 policies: code of ethics policy for organization and Tata's employees code of conduct policy for all the employees. What they have mentioned in that policies we'll discuss in detail. And if you want to run your organization in ethical manner, then you will need to develop for your organization such a code of ethics policy for organization and code of conduct policy for employees. So I will discuss this Tata's policy directly in the class as a model or as a case study. Then we will also discuss some other terms, okay, like third party ethics, okay, then corporate social responsibility, CSR concept, which is also very important, integrity pact, all such a concepts we will discuss which are related with the corporate governance. And also we'll discuss one debate, that is professional ethics versus personal ethics. Many times your personal ethics and organization's professional ethics will be different, there will be clash. Then in that situation, okay, how to resolve the clash, okay, that debate we will discuss in our classroom. So these few topics that we'll discuss under the topic of corporate governance in our lectures. And then finally, okay, the last topic is your case studies, okay. And in case studies, guys, I will be discussing with you almost 20 plus case studies. And I already told you, my approach will be very simple while we're discussing case studies. We will try to discuss case studies, one from different areas. So one case study on child labor, one on child trafficking, one on sexual harassment at workplace, one on fake sexual harassment case, one on disaster management, one on mob management, one or event management like case study, one case study related to poverty, one case study related to administrative ethics, political neutrality, impartiality, etc. One case study related to social media use by bureaucrat, etc. Then some case studies from private organization perspective, corporate governance perspective, okay. Then one case study on corruption. So like that, we will try to cover, okay, 20 plus case studies, each from different areas, so that, okay, whatever 6-7 case study UPSC or your state service exam will ask, okay, they will largely be overlapping with those 20 case studies. So you will have with yourself the model answer. You just have to little bit do your reasoning and modify that answer and implement or write that case studies answer. So in the last lectures, we will be having separate 20 lectures separately. We will be discussing all these points. Okay, so that's all about what we are going to discuss in the class. I hope you have got the comprehensive idea. So stay tuned to our courses, and on the platform then we will be discussing from next lecture the technical part. We will be beginning with philosophy segment, and in first lecture we will be discussing the definition of ethics. Okay, what do we understand by the concept of ethics? What do we understand by the concept of morality? And how ethics and morality is different? Okay, and then we will, after discussing all this concept, we will discuss the topic about ethics, morality based some questions and how to write answers to those questions based on whatever we have discussed in the class. That we will discuss in next 2-3 lectures. So stay tuned and thanks for listening.